first map. We looked at that.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah,
let's talk about this, because I'm gonna, analyst desk, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'm gonna open up our beautiful friendship with an argument. I think this is bait, because it's not that NIP have a lower preference on it. G2 do not play it at tier 1. Yeah, they played it in South Breach. They had a very poor showing of it at Gamers 8. And then they haven't played at any of the majors, any of the big performances when it's a high preference map. They've left it open as what is usually their first ban preference at any of the majors they've been at. NIP have fallen for the bait. G2, what are you cooking up here?
Well, that's the thing, because I looked at it and I was a bit like, there must be a reason behind it. There's no way they make a mistake on day 1 in the first map ban phase and leave that open. So there has to be a reason there. G2, they must have kicked something up. And NIP, well, they've always felt a bit comfortable going there. Haven't really played the last 6 months, yeah, but they overall have a really good record over the years. So it's going to be a good start.
Okay. We also are very lucky to be blessed by many of the big brains around us, and it's the beauty of SI. You're surrounded by very cool, very clever people, and you've also got occasionally people like Fresh, so you can go and be like, Fresh, what's your story here? What's your,
I say he's not smart. He's not. We have smart people.
He's
and
beautiful.
We have
Goodbye, Tuberau. We'll talk about these bands probably in a second and the sort of spread of things onto Club. But one of the sort of conversations that has apparently gone on behind the scenes around G2, especially when they sort of brought in Uno, was to get themselves re-leveled on defaults. Bring themselves back towards a default game of Siege, because Siege is a game of two halves and 2 major playstyles at this moment in time. You have the much talked about and aforementioned split theory, and then you also sort of have the old school style of Siege, the defaults, the takes, your approaches from Virtus.pro style takes, and this is a game where you've got NIP that are very good at the classical side of things, and the opposite end of this.
All right, so as we get going, prep face in the meantime on the way.
I mean, I'm living for the rumba. I'm living for the rumba that we're vibing around, but now it's business time. And here we go, G2 versus NIP, opening us up on stream. Now, if it's your first aside, there is 2 streams that are running parallel to each other, because there's just so much Siege happening.
Yeah, we do have to say, though, you will hear Tim.
You will hear Tim
from now on.
And occasionally, you might hear us slip through, but you will hear Tim, Ace of Pyrite. We're on the other side. He's in a different continent, and we can still hear each other. Now, when we talk about, and I know I briefly alluded to it before, but I'll go a little bit more in depth. The 2 styles, the slower one that NIP does is much more set up. They've actually struggled at the new idea of breaking things apart. You'll see them. It's not entirely a confidence thing, but they like to have the full control. This is where things might get shaken up. Look at how Alamau is trying to bite his way into this approach. They shake the tree and see what falls off the back. And when NIP gets shook, sometimes it can entirely take the wheels off an approach.
No, for sure. And I think Clubhouse is one of those maps where defaults and fundamentals are really part of the play. So maybe the slower kind of game style from NIP is actually working out for them here. Usually they have to warm up and really get into a tournament, but having a map like this to start off on might actually be quite beneficial, as Doki gets the very first kill onto Psycho, opens it up and takes down the IQ.
This is entirely it. So, split theory, the other end that you'll hear broken down, picked up and reevaluated every single time. A very layman's approach is look for opportunities all across the map and see what you can take. G2 love it. They thrive in it. They try to be the sort of propagation of the motion of it in the meta as well. They want to be the first step. Doki cannot decide if he wants to be in front of or behind this mirror window, or because of this. Hey, who did Doki kill in this position? It was an IQ.
I was actually going to be mentioning that. He's trying to stop those drones from finding those cameras as well. And with the IQ gone now, the information game heavily in favor of G2, and that allows them to just pop up every now and then, take those fights and try and put themselves in the advantage right here. Now they're looking to open up on the hatch, but there it is. The claws are coming out and Benja's making sure that hatch stays shut. Gonna try and do it via, you know, the soft flooring next to it. It is possible with Exkyros. You just need to be really precise.
And that's not what he's trying to do.
Yeah, he's trying to get the claw.
He's getting the claw. He's baiting the claw there as Doki baits another player. That's twice. He is using that single camera on that stairs and biting in. An unfun fact. Can't find the third as he's finally put down by Cons, but 40 seconds left here. And this is when we highlight this slower approach, a bit of a panic shot. And the unfun fact is NIP, both majors they've been at, they've lost their opening game. They struggle to get into tournaments. They've struggled to get into the first round of this so far, and it's a much longer series. A best of 3 they'll be playing through. We have a lot of siege in this showdown ahead of us, but G2, they're making sure they're just as uncomfortable here on their home territory as they've been in NA and in EU.
With the Deagle to finish it off there for Virtue, a bit of a style point early on, and I mean, this is something we know from G2. They like to play that mental game. They need to find that momentum and really bring that going. And, you know, if you have such a dominant first round, why not try and go for a bit of style points in the end there? Important to mention, though, the camera gameplay that we saw from G2 early, those Valkyrie cams, absolutely crucial. Taking down the IQ before they could actually take out any of those cameras, even more so, because then they can just keep bouncing on the information they get and basically always have a bit of a leg up. There's no drones ahead of them either. And Benja finding this kill, by the way, it was such a shame because he just walks in, he checks it, and at the moment he registers the player, flicks off, and then realizes, there was someone out there.
I mean, the IQ going down at the first sort of bait there against the Valkyrie that's playing aggressive, it doesn't spell great. Then you get the Hibana swinging with 40 seconds left. Missing the X-Kairos is the sign of, uh-oh, we're under a bit more pressure than we wanted to be at this. It's club. Yes, it's default. It can be slow. It works into the favor of those teams. However, taking into consideration the sort of nerves of coming into this major, taking into consideration how they've often started these majors, it hasn't always been their best, has been their first day. They like to boil, they like to cook, they like to be a sort of slow burn into the blaze by the end of it. And this is as fun as it can sort of be as a comparison, old style versus new style happening on the oldest style of map. The fact that this even got through, I mean, as I said, for my money, this is G2's to prove. There goes Uno, the proof is not out.
A different kind of game that we're seeing for the second round. Of course, we're no longer in the basement. It takes a lot of time to set yourself up for it. We're now finding ourselves upstairs. And I feel that if you're looking at the setup here, we have 2 architects coming in Mira and Azami, 2 very prevalent operators that we're still seeing to this day, especially Mira, for example, really making it hard on the attacker, trying to slow it down as much as they can. Of course, Subaru has been banned. We promised we'd come back to it later.
We did. I was just about to say I forgot to come back to it later.
Look at Doki.
Doki, what are you doing? Cons is able to punish him this time round. He was obviously very successful with that style of step up to the plate and knock it out of the park in the previous, but this time not quite getting the same momentum behind it. A 5 versus 3. Loads of time here for NIP as they start to look into Logi. Look at Wizard underneath as well. The Capitao can try and cause some destruction and damage. Obviously, since the frag grenades have been changed and pulled away, there's new adaptations on pushes, and that is a very clever one. Look at that, right in the cubby rotation. Forced out by the smoke. Muzi pushes up the main brick stairs, trying to get the angle and the swing on the player. They don't know he's here. There's so much noise. There's the win on the fight, though. Virtue doing all he can. Cons keeps the double up. There's a low health onto the mirror. Minute 10 again. Still loads of time here as Benja bites back across the door.
Have some important rotations though, but the fire now is going to be stopping Benja from stopping this plant from happening as Gonza's getting himself in behind the weight. Is there a rotation downstairs? Yes, there is. Virtue with the C4. The drop comes through. The diffuser's now on the bottom floor though, and that means if Benja can hold on to the main stairs with Pino being down in this 1v1 situation, G2 might still turn it around. Flashbangs are coming through. Cons knows around his position, but he's not able to connect the shots.
Boy wonder Benja was the driving force behind them winning their last SI, and here he is opening up the round with some huge play against Cons, who's fighting in his first ever SI2. Over the sides! And it's Benja that gets the double and the lockout. But these are the kind of rounds you want to see from our lobby in this tournament that will have the highest amount of SI champion hammer holders going head to head.
7 out of the 10 players, was it, have raised this hammer before?
7 out of the 10.
And with that, it is going to be a very heavy matchup to come through. And I was going to say, okay, Uno drops first. Happens. It was a bang to come through. Maybe he was trying to go for a spawn peek. Those things happen. Oh, look at that. Just a kill from Benja onto the highway there. Quickly rotating back. But Doki going aggressive as soon as the wall was opened up. He's like, there's no drone. I can try. Missed his shots. After that, G2 finds himself in a, well, poor position. And I have to say, the C4 being tossed up to try and find a diffuser, you lost the gunfight. But what happened? The person with the diffuser is now down on the ground floor.
Down on the ground floor.
What does Benji need to do? Hold the stairs.
They got the down on the other player as well. Obviously, they're sort of playing with the information there. Fantastic round from Benja. And as I said, if you, if you've gotten into Siege throughout the year, if you didn't watch SI last year, Benja was the MVP. Benja was the best player in a tournament where he'd only been with the team. It was about a month and a half as a young prodigy coming into what is a very high-pressure environment, what is a very high-pressure team and sort of organization with a lot of heft behind it. And now you see him start to spark early on, and it makes it very exciting. Pino on the Ying. He might not know how close he is to a potential fight here into Strip, but it's Benja actually that, well, gets caught out by Psycho. Once again, Psycho able to get the entry over the past 2 rounds.
A little bit of damage done towards him, though, and they're still afraid of a potential run out to come through. Now, this is CCTV. This is known as the worst side to defend nowadays. It used to be one of the best, but because it has been so, tested and tried upon by any single team, everybody knows how to attack it nowadays. If you think of a step-by-step plan on how to attack a site, this is the site that comes to your mind in what is probably one of the most default takes you'll ever see. It starts with opening up the ball, starts with then getting that garage, or if you're going from the opposite side of things, you're making sure that you get construction control. And that is maybe what we're seeing a little bit here from the sides of NIP. You see that E1D in the meantime going off whilst drones are setting up for the bedroom side of things, but Doki is out there as well, just took out that drone, so he's going to be trying to put his banner in the works out here.
They're exploring the map, exploring the space, putting pressure as far out as I can. As I said, they will try to. You count the amount of times you can shake NIP's approach. You see if you can make them feel uncomfortable. That's why they're going for these bikes, these peaks, these early plays, because NIP, if you let them set up, will demolish whatever you've got on the back line. You've got to make them uncomfortable here on the approach. They're going for the rotate down towards the bottom of Garage. Virtue, he might not just know every angle that's being shot at him right now.
I mean, there's also a lack of heart breach, right? So they really just have to go for this as he jumps down. Again, a bit of an over-aggressive play from G2 after they're men down, losing it again. And yes, fire was coming down.
Yeah, I don't think he had a choice.
But it's like you still have so many panels to hide behind. It's like jumping down is basically a guaranteed death at that point.
I think he was sort of like, I can die this way, or I can die this way. But this way I might get a kill. It's throwing yourself out a back window. There's Uno. Oh, if he had stayed crouched, he might have been able to get himself out of there. A very, very quick take back, but look at the time. They have a big man advantage, but there's still 2 players to get rid of inside. Doki is the solace. If they get underneath, there's a lot of soft there. There's the first fight. It goes into the favor of Alamau. 2 versus 3, 15 seconds. The Echo drone is quick swap to it. Wizard into the default plant spot with Doki getting 1 more. He's underneath, rotating his way up towards the top of red. They're going to swing this together, the 2 versus 2. As they get back up, but now it's a 2 versus 1. There's the swing from Doki! And G2, your reigning SI champions, are 3-0 on their opening game.
And that's the second round in a row right now where it was a 5-3 advantage for NIP, which they weren't able to convert into a round win. G2 showing that resilience out there, the ability to come back by team play as well. So well done for them, 3-0 up. And again, we were looking at Clubhouse and we're like, there's a reason why G2 left this open. They expected NIP to pick this if they were going forward. Actually, timeout to be called right now as you see the coach, starting to talk as well. 45 seconds is what they have to try and get things together. And I can only assume that NIP is going to have a discussion right now. We really need to convert these 5v3s.
I mean,
we have a 2-minute advantage.
They need to have more of a discussion. This is their map pick. As I said, this was the sort of, hey, it's G2 going, oops, we've left Clubhouse open. Why have we done this? Why is Clubhouse open? Oops.
Oopsie.
Oops.
Didn't expect that to happen.
And, they have a game. And yeah, NIP, it's not a sort of large preference map from them. It's not one of their top-end ones that they throw themselves into. they've had a little bit more success on it. They've picked it a couple times. They've not played it as much, and they've not banned it as much. Whereas, you know, it's sort of a first or a second ban preference. It's something that G2 will always remove. I almost got my predictions of maps entirely right. The only swap was Border. I assumed Border would be NIP's map because G2 would leave it in ban out club, and lo and behold, here we are.
The opposite. Now, it is a tech pause that we are headed into after the tech. You actually see the officials working.
Hard at work.
You know, just quickly doing out some swaps or some changes that need to be done to get everything going again. It sometimes amazes me how quickly they can, like, you know, change all that stuff, figure out what the issue is. Sometimes you see like entire PC changes and like, that is a good response from Psycho. I don't know if there was a drone on him that realized that, you know, something like that was going on, or
did he know? Oh, he was already aimed towards the spot they expected to play. But this is the sort of meat of it. As you said, you get yourself into a 5 versus 3. You get and not being able to lock it down is bad. You get it into it when you have a minute on the clock, and you're attacking a sort of default. Whether you have hard breach or not, you can still formulate takes with trades.
I agree, but I'm also going to say if they had hard breach, it would have been a different take, and it would have come in from the balcony and from garage whilst having someone on highway. But now there was no hard breach, so what did they have to do? They had to enter from all different kinds of spots, which LMAO could just hold off from that one position and basically stall for a while. So yes, they should be able to transition it. However, because they didn't have hard breach, it was easier for G2 to hold off on it.
Do you know what they did have?
What did they?
A Ying.
Yes.
Do you know what that Ying did?
Not use Candelas.
Nothing. I think that's the sort of sticky position. That's the warm-up time we talk about with NIP as a team. Is there's plays, there's ideas that if they have that lineup on day 2 or day 3, you'll see them almost bring something a little bit different, a little bit sharper, which is maybe what's the by-the-books run. The core of NIP are hammer holders. 3 of them have been able to get it lofted above their heads a couple years ago, and then they didn't make the following SI. They did not get themselves back on the back-to-back. And now here they are, sort of stepping into the fight with 2 new players that have never touched that hammer before of Wizard and Cons. And where their entry statistic can be fantastic, they don't really follow it up with a lot of meat a lot of the time.
No. And then that's always that age-old conversation, right? Great if you get the entry, but you need to follow it through. You need to convert it into more and a round win. And that's kind of where you need to play that trading game. You need to... Oh, Benja's typing easy on the wall. I don't know if you saw that. That's SMG 11 there. So it seems like they're already figuring out that they've won this game. Is this the famous last word?
This could be a famous last word. I mean, it's a confidence. You look at the spread of the team, but also you look at 2 of those rounds, big clutch bites. One of them by Benja, pretty much solely. Then he's the first bodygun in the next round, but Doki and Alamau are able to sort of batten down the hatches and hold on. It's the power of G2's roster, but also it can be the flaw of G2's roster. And it's not that NIP are a team that will be shaken by the mind game. If you haven't watched the documentary that was made around Atlanta and the team playing through them, it's fantastic. Do give it a watch at some point. But G2 are one of those teams where they say, we are the best at mental warfare, we are the bad guys. And it doesn't always work.
No, sometimes it comes back to bite them a little bit.
Yeah, there's nothing, you know, superhero films are the most popular. People love it when the good guys beat the bad guys.
Yeah.
If you frame yourself as the bad guys, it can give the good guys more energy. Captain America will pick up that hammer and go to town, you know? Spoiler alert.
In this case.
Sorry. Captain...
Or Capitano.
Capitano.
Yeah. Either way, it is top floor clear, working their way down right now. Doki still finds himself in the freezer.
Yeah, he's holding on, and there's a minute 30.
Now, there is an IQ on the board again, and if he uses the Solar Scanner, they should be aware of his position, but as Alamau finds the kill on Tapino, that might actually distract the attention away as Virtue finds Musi as well through the hatch that was just opened up.
And this just makes Doki's position more powerful. He's sitting, he's waiting. He might have actually been frozen to the spot at this point. Psycho's running around. They've got to try and fill the sort of gaps. You lose your Ying, and I said they didn't use the Candelas that last round. They can't use them this round. If you're going for this hatch drop, if you're going for this pressure, you can't do much of it. Look at how G2, with those two bodies, reinforced Church Wall, relocked it back up. That is the sort of attention of, we have the body advantage. Let's make things more awkward and uncomfortable for them to have to try and break through. Let's not give them an A route.
That's indeed, we don't need to use this anymore to get an advantage. Look at the keeper barriers as well, though. On the actual door frames, which means you should be crouching underneath if you want to get through or blow it up first. Now, I believe there's at least something coming. Not quite sure if they have. Explosives ready and just waiting. He's going to be striking any moment right now. It's just a question of time as Wizard gets a little bit of damage on Virtue. Doki finds Wizard still up above as Alamau gets a C4 kill onto Psycho. Cons now on the hunt. Will find Doki, so no flawless round for G2.
I mean, Cons has been that sort of force player for the team right now. He's one of only 3 to actually get kills across it. Goes for the drop. Not many bullets in the Type 89. Enough to take the head off of a second player, but at this point, it's just padding stats on the exit. G2 bounce for their 4th in a row after NIP's tack timeout. This is NIP's map. And if they don't find themselves, at least I would say 2 rounds. 1 if you're feeling fluffy on your defense. But G2, quite a good attacking team when they're on form.
And we have to say, right, Clubhouse is more of a 50-50, especially with CCTV still being around that often.
I mean,
that is one of the sites you really need to have. And they missed it in the first attempt. Bedroom is coming up next, which means that we might see another CCTV as the 6th round, or bar, who knows? You don't know with G2. They always try different kinds of stuff. And I mean, again, aggression coming out from G2 there in the right position.
I love that rotate.
Hatch open up.
The door-to-door, the long corridor door towards the sort of stock rotate as well if you're playing that bite. You could see the mirror was getting the read on who's above stock hatch. Yeah. And as we said, the longer the time goes on, the more invincible Doki becomes and feels, because they're not looking anywhere else but, we have to be on the site.
They just didn't know he was there. And that's like, look at that. Sometimes you see these calls coming out. Sorry, despite their major appearance, NIP only played 1 European team since September last year, which they beat.
Yep.
Attackers are moving out to locate.
I mean,
better than
on Cafe. I think that's the sort of thing about NIP is, okay. Doki gets the opening there onto Wizard. Dockerby is gone, and Wizard, if you look at their entry statistic from the year, one of the best rated entry players across anything. Can't quite get the balance of bodies, often loses life not long after, but getting that first bite is huge. Talking of huge, he is a big Frenchman with a shield. This is new approach here. They're tired, I think, of playing this sort of push around. However, when you've lost the Dockerby calls, when you've lost the gun behind Monty, they're now down, in a weird way, 2 guns, they're down.
That's it. Like, you just have to, walk extended and try and be a nuisance for someone else to actually find those kills. But also, usually, Monty's a bit of a crutch. Things are not going the way we want to. We need to be able to shepherd out these players more efficiently, and that should bring that Monty. And Psycho now leading the charge, but there is still players downstairs that NIP need to be aware of.
That's also the change. This is fear. That roster on the right-hand side, you look at that and go, they are a bit terrified, because they've also got the Nomad. Muzi, huge player, one of the smartest, quickest brains that we've seen in clutch situations, especially. And he's now on the I've got to watch our backs. It's another gun taken out of the push and the pressure, more time taken away. They're impact tricking and juggling and playing against the break. The flash is over the top to stop the impact, but with all of this utility dumped here onto the first entrance, they just step back. The site is obviously pushed across. They're going to trust the air jabs behind them. You're looking at a Soulless, again, underneath soft floor. We've seen them play that game. Doki, he's gone for the rotate. They were able to get plays against it with C4s from underneath. NIP, the time is so filtered away from them.
There's no more exothermics either. You know what that means? Jacuzzi stays closed. There's a single doorway they can be headed through right now, and that is where all their hopes and dreams will be relying on to try and find this round. Pino playing on highways, trying to find himself with a pick on someone that's on the site that's kind of dislocated themselves, but G2's not really moving, and Psycho walks into a crossfire right now. That's a shield gone, and I believe that might be the diffuser dropped as well as Doki finds Cons. Only Pino and Muzi left now to try and salvage this round, make that only Muzi. He finds himself outside. He's holding the stairs rotation. Hasn't found any success so far. 30 seconds. Might just let that run out. Uses as another timeout.
What had G2 prepared on Clubhouse. Why have G2 hidden this map from any international major tournament for as long as they have? I mean, they are sort of demonstrating a great performance here against NIP. This is the one team, as I said before, NIP hadn't fought against throughout the group stages, throughout the majors this year. The one team that, to be fair, they haven't played technically as an org versus an org. I think the last time these orgs met, which was obviously very different rosters, was back in Mexico.
It was a long time ago since they've met, indeed. Of course, yeah, different rosters.
Very different.
Always
I think there was like two players the same.
Yeah. All right.
5-0. 5-0 here. And this is when I guess we'll sort of maybe talk about the format again. If it's your first SI, there's the split of groups. One team from each group will not be progressing into the next stage. The importance of winning your opening game could be the difference of going home or not. Because if you sort of paint it as a picture of, well, if we got one win on the first day and this team suffers against everybody else, one win could technically secure. You want more.
No, that's true.
You want more to progress. However, G2, current hammer holders, it was an entirely lower bracket run that got them their invitational win.
And I don't think they want to redo the lower bracket run.
No, terrifying.
They would prefer to do it in the upper.
However, they did say, because they've obviously had two performances at the two majors this year.
Yeah.
The first major in Copenhagen, they came through in stage 2 and struggled. They still got to live stages, but they struggled.
Yeah.
At Atlanta, they had the early games to warm up, and then they were playing better. They were playing tighter. They said themselves that, you know, being on the long road makes you more prepared for all the games ahead. They trust their longevity.
They've changed it up. NIP this time around, they're going to be using Heartbreachers. Again, the opening kill will go to G2, however. But as they actually don't open it up, would have been electrified.
Oh, no.
Or was that? No, but they open up the mirror window and use it like that.
Yep.
And, I mean, some people would say that's a waste of a mirror window, but it's not, because you have the opportunity to take out, and then yes, there is a little bit of a slip, but no one can walk through, and that walking through, that's the big danger of that wall being opened up.
This is the sort of problem right now, is there's a disconnect between what NIP is doing. Obviously, they lose Psycho at this split. If you've got an Ash, I didn't quite have the full lock on where it happened, but I'm assuming they tried to get themselves in underneath to put pressure under that mirror window. Force them away from it. You can then sort of say, you're not going to play this, we get the breach open. They still went for the roll with the exothermic. They went towards the rappel. I'm not sure if they were trying to get into position to watch and swing, but it was too quick for them. They weren't ready to maybe try and take a bite, take a bit of advantage, because if you see a mirror window on that wall, you know what's going to happen.
Alamau's sixth senses just started tingling there. He's like, I am being watched. Turns around and there's a drone just sitting there. Bino drops in hot though.
Wizard.
To logistics.
Down on the back end, just outside the window itself. They can't quite get in a position to secure it. But Alamau now on the swing round right into Muzi's gunfire. Tricky situation to be in there for Alamau. He wanted to see if he could maybe get a punish on a sprinted player, but he held the angle a little bit longer. There's the Ender Wizard. Benjamaster gets the finish on the player. 3 versus 3. Just over a minute left here. You can hear Echo drones no longer usable, but whirring behind. Uno still with the C4 and some control on towards Garage. Again, vertical play. It is a big component of this. We know the default plant spots. And now, as you can see, they're just trying to find their first lead in here. Pino, he's getting the close wall open. Muzi might go for the rotate as the Kiba barricade. Yep, there it is. Gets the construction back on the window.
Now, Uno in a very important spot here with that mirror window. They just try to take it out with the Exkyros. Pino, quick jump in, quick back out again. But those Exkyros have been taken care of. And as long as Virtue plays below, there's also no pressure coming in from the red stairs. So that is definitely something they're trying to do. But Virtue gets taken down. And now an advantage here for NIP. They're trying to take out the actual staircase player here. C4 comes in. Will actually get the kill before the gunfight comes through. Muzi up to the garage stairs as Pino will find the kill into red.
Pino gets onto Uno. Muzi has gone down. It's a 1 versus 1. And Benja's been in this situation before. How did it end? With a Benja round. How did it end? With a Benja round. And a G2 half. 6 in a row on NIP's opening map. And things are looking very shaky for the home crowd team.
For a second, it felt like they, you know, okay, realized.
It felt like Muzi.
It felt like Muzi had it covered there. I mean, you know, the operator selection, Heart Breacher's there. Shows you, okay, they want to go for default. The mirror window out there really threw the spanner in the works, really made sure that, okay, well, I mean, we're going to try, but we can't really guarantee that this wall will be opened up. And thus the mirror window pops, they shoot out the exothermic, and boom, wall stays shut. They have to go for plan B. And Muzi gets 2 great kills. Again, right call from Alamau to try and go for a refrag in that situation. A lot of these burnouts that we see early on can be in the entries.
There it was. As I said, you know, what Alamau was doing there was hoping, okay, they got that kill. Maybe they'll try and move on to the pickup. There, Benja with the long watch. And the longer watch swung around close, took the fight, put the pressure onto them.
Fucking go, Benja! Bleep!
Beep, 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 beep.
Sorry, you put a Scotsman on a camera, you know what you're going to get.
To go.
Right, we're starting off in the bedroom here.
6-0. There was a little bit of a change of the roster here. Before we went through, there was a Ying, there was some Candelas, the Ash as well. It seems like they've gone for something where they're not going to pull the pace back a little, but try and drive some control in. We have a stretch across the map. That's probably the lead in. Realizing just where the NIP players are on the top floor, Muzi especially, and saying, well, instead of trying to put the pressure down to the site and against those hatches, which are going to be kited anyway, he's on the board, Thatcher isn't. We can maybe do this, cut away across, force the players down on a rotate, make things awkward for them, and then just get the kill onto one of the 2 stair sets.
Pino trying to play this on the vertical angle. Seems like they're unaware. Spots out a player, gets the down onto Doki. Not quite to confirm until the shotgun blast comes through. And now Benja's just looking up like, okay,
oops,
someone there. That's a shame that we lost Doki out there. But I mean, luckily there's 6 more rounds if this one goes south to still cover it off. And that's this round still in place. So Virtue finding Muzi is going to be equaling the score pretty quickly here.
Well, the first body gone, and I guess maybe I gave too much credit towards the idea of knowing where they were, but look at Benja. He's about to come down these main stairs, and Wizard goes down because of it. They didn't quite have the camera on the watch. There's the fight all the way. It's a hell of an angle, double down, and Benja, I said he had a huge performance at a previous SI. He's feeling a little bit supersonic. The 2 drop, caught out and rocked.
Attackers have located
There's not much Benja can do at this point to battle against it. Alamau's about to be rounded upon on the back end of CC. He's watching for this though and wins out the fight against Pino on the 2nd story. Benja's still holding onto the main stairs itself, doubles down. A 2 versus 2. However, all of the structure of site is still in place. They're going for the pickup sticks and rotate round.
They know the diffuser is down in dirt. They need to try and find cons and maybe get like a 2nd player on it. So what we could see is maybe one pushing in from blue, holding the walkout there, and Alamau, as he drones himself, needs to get off quickly. He's both on 1 HP right now. A single shot is enough to kill either of them. The flashbang comes in and the rotate out as well from Cons, who drops eventually, and that means the diffuser can now be recovered by the side of G2, with Benja now being able to support on Psycho as well.
Psycho needs to hold on here. A huge historied player caught and blinded in the middle, gets Benja and pops round to see if he can try and get Alamau down. As you said, a sliver of health. 30 seconds, all the pings are coming through. The blind as well. They hit the rotate just in time and get themselves off towards the side of blue. Alamau, he's going to see if he can stick it behind the bomb chassis. He might not know about the rotate. There it is. The swing of the impact. He's not seen him slip through on towards blue. Oh, maybe he's just got the read spraying against everything and hoping for the catch. There's the ping on the player. There's Alamau trying to get it on the back of the hot. He baits the plant, but it is Psycho! Huge experience. He's held these stages. He's held the trophy, and he's held Alamau at bay and G2 1 round. But there's still another 5 if they want to try and keep this map.
The amount of times Psycho has been full flash there. I don't know if you count. It was like 3 times. He managed to get like 1 kill as well onto Benja whilst being full flashed. Able to navigate around. And that's experience, by the way. That's just knowing the map in your sleep with your eyes closed. Because he was flashed, he's able to rotate through from one room to the other and still find a fight on the player that's inside blue.
It's like F1 races. It's like
they can drive with their eyes closed.
They can drive with their eyes closed. They know the turns. Psycho knows the turns. He knows where he needs to go. And, you know, being in the 1 versus 2 there, being able to get that first lead-in fight onto Benja, keep himself moving as well. There's a do-or-die attitude because, well, what else can there be at this point? They get 1. It was on the first pick site. There are shakier sites. They've still to get through. The double down on electricity here. Both the Bandit, both the Kaid, they want to play a very shut door game. And, it, you know, on this map, I'm not going to say it's entirely predictable on how to shut it down, but it's very well rehearsed on every side.
I mean, it's just to get one on one side and one on the other, so you can keep tricking. However, there's a small issue with the emphasis on small. It's Doki on the Maverick.
Yeah.
Just open up and bypass.
I think, A, love the burn on Stokey, but B, this is the thing about Clubhouse, is in all of its history, across all of the metas, it's a multi-hard breach bring sort of map. You always have that pressure. Psycho, they've been in a consistent back and forth with that entry statistic. It's in the positive for them this time. They're still working on the sort of back end before, and there's the Maverick getting the burn through that wall. If you've not seen that before, you take the top and the bottom off, well then it all becomes soft. You can just smash out the middle, which is what Alamau is coming over to do, but you don't want to get caught when you go for the drop as well, because soft walls can be shot through by both teams. You'll be thrilled to know.
It is still a wall, it's just not a bulletproof.
Ooh, do they know of the player on red?
No, they don't know, but they do know about the player that's inside the camp. That might actually be a bit of a bait coming through.
Yeah, if he just swings this without the knowledge on the player onto red, I mean, we've seen a bit of punishment before. They've got the shield, they've got to rotate as well, and this is just to sort of hold them at bay. They could fall in down to the right-hand side. The drone at the bottom, the pressure on the shield. They're watching now for the rotate. The buck over the top, the spray through. The pressure's going to come up the stairs as well, but it's an awkward fight to take. They're sort of hoping they can just get that shut down. They duck as Pino's able to get Doki in the split. Virtue's swing in the corner and gets the Kaid, but doesn't quite get the back-o. It's back and forth, though. A little bit crazy. A 2 versus 2, technically. Pino is in a very dangerous position, so they're not going to be able to get him picked up in time. But once again, with just around a minute left here, you've got a 2 versus 2.
And G2 definitely got the better of that because they had the initial loss as well. So they were down on numbers. They've managed to bring it back to a 2-2. Of course, you'd like to have the advantage, but it's not always going to be possible. And what they need to do now is just try and isolate one of these players. Try and take the fight together so they can push in right afterwards and that final one overwhelm them.
We find ourselves in this interesting situation where you've got the two sort of IGL voices of G2. Obviously, Alamau taking the lead in the push and Uno going for that sort of cool-headed clarity versus the two new guns of NIP, the two that have sort of come into their first SI here and getting themselves onto the pressure alongside these champions. And they're going to see if they can try and keep the flag waving and keep the pressure onto Club. There's the drop of Alamau on the back end. He gets caught out by the Goo Mine. There's Uno trying to put the pressure onto the windows at the same time. Cannot quite get the lockdown. It's suddenly a 2 versus 1 with not a huge amount of time here. It might just have been a little bit too much structure. The Legion, who is in a very good place in the meta, in their power and their abilities, causing all sorts of problems. NIP, second round.
Now, they were actually aware of Wizard and his position. The drones were spotting him out. However, the Goo Mines being the problem there, because as soon as Alamau wanted to come in from the back, oh, Goo Mine gets alerted. Hey, someone is trying to push me from Logi. And Uno wasn't able to get the catch as soon as they moved past that mattress. And because of that, able to turn it around for NIP. So the Goo Mine's really given away the last second information that was necessary there.
This is where things get sticky. CCTV, I assume we'll be going to, or bar stage. Both of them tricky sites to hold on to. Both of them tricky places to go. CC is where the coin has landed, but you know, although we've seen it not be massively successful here, as you alluded to earlier, as a site, it dropped off in favor a huge amount because of how easy it became to attack, because of how easy it became to put pressure onto it. We're looking at a situation here where it's becoming scrappy outside the site, and then it's a 2 versus 2 towards it with a lot of the structure still standing. Will G2 try and lean in towards breaking the structure here and put some pressure onto something a bit more traditional? You're looking at that lineup on the left, you're thinking, there's a garage take, there's a rafters take, there's some control of potentially the stairs on the back end. There's, you know, the one swap of the hard breach there, but there's, you assume tin openers in the pockets, at least 2. Yeah, there it is.
I think they want to bring the Hibana to be a bit more flexible, so you can do it from range rather than having to be up against the wall, especially with a mirror window out there.
What are you going for here, Cons?
We're taking them out.
Just an early opening. Might have actually wanted to go for a fight, but realized as he opened it,
he was looking to it.
It's like, I'm not going to do it because he just backed off.
He was looking to it. Doki, as I said, this is the Ash roll that we didn't quite see the death of before, but you often get them popped in underneath. With that being opened, it changes the game a little. And he's still just trying to get a comfortable watch here. You can see there's a bit of the shuffle around. The whole team is getting the rotate. This is that split theory take where you're sort of probing for the weakness, probing for the holes. The Grim is now going towards that back line, and the gunner Benjo. Wizards swinging one side of a mirror window. Psycho's holding on to the other. Look at that as an aggressive hold on the angle. They're just sort of making everything uncomfortable to approach this wall.
So we do see 2 players on rafters, we see 2 players around red, and 1 being around cash. Actually just rotated off to be on a flank near the bedroom, but it means like those positions of NRP are quite strong. You cannot just take a single player out because you need to be in a fight with the other person that's backing them up as well at the very same time. So this is where Uno can come in quite handily, using that fire. You can isolate one of those players, force them to fall back, or push them together with the opposite player as well, together with the bees. So there's a lot of zoning that we see right now on G2 that might actually allow them to take this fight. This Wizard just burns to death, and that means there's only a single player up right now. The bees come in again. Now they will know about Musi being on the rafters as well, and it's being forced off as Pino drops by Alamau.
Alamau gets Pino, and as I said, this is a setup that you're going to take these rafters on, and this is a rafters take if I've seen them 2 bodies, but we have seen teams have a 5 versus 3 and lose it before. There's the scrap and the blind, the bite right on to the second story. Cons and Psycho. Only 2 bodies left remaining, and Psycho is feeling a little bit frisky here for the close range firefight. Do they know about his position? They don't seem to have the immediate read, but now they sure do. The spray from the 2 stories, 56 seconds. He just wants to get the lead in, but Virtue has the back end. Cons with a C4 in pocket. And a great SMG in front of him. He's looking to just hold them off for as long as he can. Find a single fight as the beast scream up the back end of red. Uno gets it. Virtue gets it. And G2, a little bit of a shake at the second, but they did a huge amount of work, enough to secure themselves the playback through and secure themselves the first map in this series, this best of 3, and it was NIP's pick.
It was a very comfortable win for G2, and of course some of the rounds were closer than, you know, they might have seemed if you look at the scoreline now, because we had 2 5v3 situations in favor of NIP.